Man, I tell you what, I really like this angle in my studio. This is my first time ever shooting this way, and I think it looks dope. I'm pumped. Check my monitors. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. All right. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another YouTube video. I'm pumped you're here. I got a little bit of a different one for you guys today. I'm trying something new, which is doing kind of a director's commentary style kind of live critique. Well, this isn't live. It's live as I'm recording it, but it's not going to be live as you're watching it. Never mind. Yeah, so I'm going to be doing a walkthrough of one of the wedding films I shot here this past season, and I'm going to be kind of commenting on it real time and putting that out there for you guys. This one is unique. If you saw the title of this video, I'm doing how to shoot a wedding film solo. So with that, I'm going to jump into this. Just a couple of kind of disclaimers, if you will. My approach when I am shooting solo wedding films is I've got to document first and then get artistic and get really creative second, because when I'm solo shooting, I can't afford to be missing moments in the interest of making it look incredible, because the most important thing is that the bride and groom have footage that they're able to fall back on and look at and remember things 10, 15, 20 years down the road. We'll get into that as I go through this breakdown a little bit more, but that's the most important thing. So that is my primary objective, is document first, be creative, be artistic second, which you'll see some very clear examples of that in this film. Yeah. Document over create, and make sure you have a game plan and a shot list going in. Those are my two kind of prerequisites for solo shooting. I'm going to pop in these AirPods so the audio of me watching this doesn't mess with my audio on camera. So yeah, let's just get into this, guys. Yeah, here it goes. So right off the bat, you can hear I bring in the sound design, a couple of kind of detail shots, birds chirping. I've been doing that in these films, in my wedding films lately, is kind of starting them really low, starting them details, audio, to really kind of pull the viewer into the environment. And then I move to this establishing shot, drone shot. This is where the ceremony took place, this gazebo on the water here. That's the ceremony location. So after I kind of set the scene with those sort of those audio bites and those detail shots of the pond and whatnot, I move to this location. I get an establishing shot with the drone, something that looks visually, very interesting. It's got the reflection, adds a lot of interest, but it's also saying, hey, this is significant. We're going to be coming back to this later. So pay attention to that. Bring in the music.
To my husband.
I introduced the bride early in this one. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I keep the bride a little bit a mystery until the first look, or somewhere maybe she's walking down the aisle. I like to sometimes in the film do the reveal of the bride the way it happened in real life. So if the groom didn't see the bride until the first look, sometimes I won't show the bride until the first look. And then sometimes, I won't. Sometimes I'll hit it right off the bat. I just liked the feel. A lot of times if the emotion is really big whenever the first look is happening, I'll use that as the reveal of the bride. The reveal, the emotion wasn't huge when they did their first look. They're not like overly emotional people, which is totally fine. Sometimes people are just more expressive than others, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the emotion wasn't huge when they did the first look. So I decided, rather than using that be like a climactic moment of introducing the bride in the film, I decided to just hit it right off the bat, introduce, these are our characters. This further establishes within like the first 30 seconds of the film, hey, this is a wedding film. We're focusing on these two people. These are our two main subjects. This is who the story is about. And this is where I start in with the voiceover and the audio of the groom reading the letter that the bride wrote to him throughout the day.
To my husband. It's been a busy 5 years since our first date, and I've wanted you, needed you, and depended on you the entire way. Today marks the beginning of the rest of our lives together.
Just capturing the moment, capturing what was
life.
happening, some B-roll of them. Again, just further establishing that mood.
You are a kind, patient, and understanding man, the future father of my children. I love you more and more each day. Thank you for
Transition
always
into the
being true to
details with the
yourself
bride.
and for always
You can see
always
the
loving
steam.
Your
You can
wife
see the
and
steam
other better
rising
half, Davida.
in front of the window on that shot. You can see it's a little jittery. It's not perfectly smooth the way slow motion is. That is because when I'm solo shooting, in particular with the camera I shot this film with, which was my EOS R that I built out in the cinema rig, this video here, I shot it with this exact camera. That camera does not shoot 4K any higher than 24 frames. Well, it shoots 4K 30, but gross. So it doesn't shoot anything higher than 4K 24 frames a second. So I shoot the whole day if I was shooting on that camera in 24p. And then if I want a slow motion clip, I just count on optical flow, being able to slow it down, and then using optical flow or frame blending to interpolate the frames in between, which sometimes can give you this jittery slow motion effect like it did with that steam. Honestly, I'm fine with it. For wedding films and stuff like this, it's more about capturing the emotion of the day than it is the visuals. So that's that. Introduce the bride. This is the kind of emotion I like to show. Is in this shot, you can see the bride reaching up and just kind of caressing the groom's face. It's just good emotion. It's a good moment to show. Those are the kind of shots that make my wedding films. Is just these kind of little interactions, those sweet little moments. You know, when you're solo shooting a wedding, you got to be looking out for those constantly, because as I said, you're not going to be relying on the visuals for the interest all that much, because like, let's face it, the reason that people create films with huge film crews is because it's very difficult to get incredible looking visuals by yourself. It just is. That's the way it is. So you're not going to be relying on the visuals so much as what is happening in the frame. That is the emotion, the interaction between the bride and groom, different stuff like that.
Davida, I can't believe we're getting married again. Twice in 2 months. It's crazy to me that it feels like I've known you forever, and to think it's only been 5 wonderful years. The best 5 years of my life. I know I can't predict the future, but I do know I can get through any obstacle or setback with
you can see in
by
this
my
shot,
side.
when you're shooting this way, when you're running and gunning this way, and you're just capturing the shots that you need to stitch together a fundamental film, wedding film, there are certain shots, you know, your hero shots, so to speak, like this. It's worth with these ones to take a little bit of time and make it, again, you don't have the time, you don't have the resources to really kind of architect and craft this scene, but you with a few small things, you can make it look significantly better than if you just, you know, wing it without thinking of any of this stuff. And as a filmmaker or a photographer, you need to be thinking about this stuff anyway. So something like this, for example, this is classic talking head interview style, literally just like I'm doing right here in this video. If you've ever shot interviews or YouTube videos or anything like that, like, it's the same principles I'm using here to make this look, you know, slightly more cinematic, slightly better than if I hadn't put any planning into this at all. And there's nothing big going on here. Like, I didn't have to bring in lights or audio or this, that. Well, she is mic'd up, but I didn't have to do a lot extra in order to achieve this. This is just her side lit from a window. So you can see, obviously, it spills across her face. So we get a nice split. It's not quite Rembrandt. There's a little bit of highlight on the shadow cheek, but it's not quite Rembrandt lighting. And then you can see in the background as well, that dresser vanity is this like teal, blue, green. So I looked in the room. First thing I saw was the light, where the light was and how I could use that light. And then I looked at the background and noticed that the blue, teal, green thing going on would be a nice color contrast for her skin. Again, I was shooting this on the EOS R in 4K. And when you're shooting on the EOS R in 4K, you have to shoot on pretty wide lenses because the crop factor on that camera is fairly extreme. It's like 1.7, I think. So I almost always shoot that camera in 4K with the 18-35 f1.8 Sigma art lens, and it works great. That's a phenomenal lens. It looks beautiful. But at that wide of focal length, you don't get a lot of separation from the background. You get some. You can see in this frame there's good separation. There's good background blur, but you're never gonna like obliterate the background unless the background is really far away from your subject. But because you're not going to get that separation with the depth of field, you need to look for elements like this, of this blue, green, kind of teal color contrast with the skin situation in order to create the depth and create the separation for your subject. So things like this, you find the light, you look when you're indoors at the windows and see how the light is spilling into the room and how you can use that to your advantage. And then you look again for like color contrasting situations, and you just notice things like this, and you find small things like this that can really increase the look and the production value of your shots. Just plan ahead to make sure that you have the time and that you know what shots you need to look good like this in order to make it happen.
Back with you by my side. I think the 2 weddings are a good example of this. I can't wait to start.
Shots out of focus, but again, it's a moment that was worth capturing and putting in the film for the bride and groom. That's what I'm talking about. Is there's gonna be moments, there's gonna be shots that you don't nail. Like that shot would never be in my reel. That shot of the groom and the best man hugging. It's a moment that the bride and groom deserve to remember. So you put it in the film despite it not being perfect. This is what I'm talking about when I say document over create. Whenever you're solo shooting weddings, is get the shot. Like first and foremost, capture the moment and then worry about the art. I know people who are talented enough to get the shot and have it look like a feature film every time. I'm not that person. I'm not there yet. That's just the way it is. But hopefully I'll be there someday. I'm just not there right now. But again, I know people that are, and it is possible. But for me, where I am in my skill set and my career, this is kind of how I have to do it, is to shoot it very much like a documentary where you're gathering stuff as it's happening, and whether or not it's perfect or not, the fact that it's on video and you have it to be able to put into this film and help convey emotion to the bride and groom, that's the most important thing.
I love you with all my heart, your husband and best friend, Will.
Really hang on to this shot here a little bit as she was kind of having a swoon moment. This shot's tough. The sun was in and out. Again, this is another example of a shot that's not technically perfect, but it's a moment that has to be in the wedding film, which is the first look. And the sun was in and out of clouds, so whenever I set the exposure on the camera, this scene was exposed perfectly. You can see here that the background is a bit blown out, and that's just something you live with. That's I did the best I could to kind of deal with it in editing. I brought in some graduated ND in post and kind of helped the exposure on the upper edge so that the brightness just wasn't quite so distracting. But there's really nothing you can do for blown out highlights. When they're blown out, they're blown out. So again, just another example of variables that you can't control. I wasn't manning this camera. This camera was on a tripod. I was following the bride with my gimbal. So this camera was unmanned. If I had another person shooting with me, a person would have been manning this camera and been able to adjust for the sun coming out. But here we are. Again, just another example of, what can happen whenever you're solo shooting a film and how you just got to kind of roll with the punches.
You are the first person I want to tell anything and everything. I can't wait to build a family and a home with you, filled with love, laughter, learning, kindness, and compassion.
This is just transitioning into the ceremony.
With love and devotion.
This is the bride's vows.
I promise to be your lifelong friend and partner in everything. To give you love and respect you so deserve. This
is something that I do a lot, is use moments like this, special moments. This is the first dance. The footage is the first dance. The audio is the bride's vows from the ceremony. The emotion and the mood of the first dance, the intimacy of the first dance very much matches the intimacy of the vows and what is happening there on an emotional level. So what you want to do whenever you're shooting wedding films like this, you can tell a linear story, which is literally cut the film chronologically how it happened in real life. I tend to not tell perfectly linear. It's still mostly linear, but not perfectly linear. And whenever you're telling stories in this way, what you want to do is you want to try and match levels of emotion. So again, like I said, the emotion of the first dance very, very well matches the emotion of the vows during the ceremony. So I pair those things up, and it provides a nice transition from kind of the mood of the letter readings and the getting ready stuff and the details of the morning to the ceremony. So it's not just like an abrupt, hey, they're getting ready. Hey, they had a first look. Hey, here's the ceremony. The emotion is sort of the connecting point across these things so that you can tell a nonlinear story, but still have it be not super predictable the way a linear story is. I guess that's why I edit this way, is because I don't want every wedding film to be templated. Here's the first look. Here's the ceremony. Here's the introduction. Here's the reception. Like, that just becomes very predictable and very clinical. And frankly, it gets really boring to edit whenever all your films follow that exact same template. So I like editing this way because it keeps me more interested. And when I'm more interested in my edits, I create a better film for the bride and groom. So I personally think it creates a much more dynamic film. So use that to your advantage and use it as a tool in your toolkit to be able to tell compelling wedding stories.
To trust and love you with all of my heart as your wife and best friend. I promise to take on each new challenge and adventure as it comes together. You are my today and all of my tomorrows. You will never be alone. I give you my heart to take with you wherever you go.
Here you hear the music starting to peak a little bit, and I just start to match between the edit and the music, and the whole thing is kind of rising and bringing the energy of the entire film up together.
By the power vested in me by the state of Pennsylvania and the Universal Life Church, I am happy to introduce you all to the new
This is something I've been doing a lot
mission
lately here, is I will have the entrance to the reception correlate with the officiant announcing them, you know, as she does the kiss, the first kiss and whatnot. So that's a technique I've been using. Again, it's just another technique to be able to transition smoothly, because what you're hearing is seamless because it's all one part, but it's matching what you're seeing, which isn't seamless. It's making the transition from ceremony to reception. So just another technique I've been using in my last few films. Again, the music's just building, so I'm gonna start building that with the cuts and start building the energy alongside that. That was something, that fireworks shot, if you look at it in the sequence, it doesn't make a ton of sense in the sequence, but it's just the song has gotten to such a big point at that part that I want to match it with an equally high energy shot, so we're matching that energy level, but we're also introducing a totally new scene that we're going to come back and visit at the end of the film. So that's just, again, you want to look how you can sprinkle in different parts of the day so that it's not abrupt, but you want to make it feel seamless. So if we're hitting a climax point in the song, we use a climax piece of footage from maybe another portion of the day, but it serves as being a smooth transition, but it also introduces us to an abruptly, vastly different kind of scene, but it doesn't feel jarring. It doesn't feel abrupt because the energy of the song and the edit made sense in that moment. So use stuff like that to help you in your editing and to, again, tell non-linear stories. Just capturing some of that emotion. You see this portion of the day, particularly with this boat, you can see that this is where we had kind of some time to play around. Myself and the photographer both, we kind of had some time to stop and play around with the bride and the groom. All the scheduled events for the day were done at that point. So we had time in the day at this point. And not only have we had time in the day, we had planned it with the bride and the groom. Hey, this evening, right around sunset, we're going to go out and we're going to do this. It goes back again to just having a game plan going into it. And another important thing I didn't touch on earlier is coordinating with the photographer. Do your best to work with the photographer to get what you both need and make it happen. We were able to make this portion of the day happen with this boat and the sunset and it being gorgeous with the bride and groom. We were all able to make this happen because me and the photographer were on the same page. You're going to be working closely together all day long, so it's worth it to put in a little effort and build a little rapport with them on the day of. Back to the first dance to get us into the ceremony, into the reception details, cake cutting.
On this day, exactly 5 years ago, the stars aligned again, and they pushed together two unsuspecting soulmates.
Just doing some voiceover of the speeches. This is something when you're solo shooting wedding films, audio will be the bane of your existence. I can't tell you how many struggles I have had getting good, clean audio on wedding days. So, make sure you have your audio strategy planned out and you have 2, 3, 4 backup sources of audio, because it never fails. Like, you will have problems with audio. So you need to have backup audio sources. So I had 4 audio sources all recording during the toast, and that's ideal. Like, if I am able to do that, I do it. So just have a game plan for audio. It's the one thing that invariably will go wrong in one way or another, more times than not. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just because it's easy to forget. It's easy to kind of get caught up in shooting the day that you forget about audio. But have multiple sources of audio whenever, especially all the time, but especially when you're solo shooting weddings. Take time when you're factoring in your shot list on the itinerary of the day. Make sure you give yourself time, particularly for the ceremony and then for the toasts and the speeches. Make sure you incorporate time to set up your audio recording setup, because, well, you'll just thank me for that at some point, I promise.
And Reed and Will wasted no time with that fate, and the next night they went on their first date.
When she met Will, she told me, "Mom,
moving to the dances with the parents." If the parents do any sort of toasts, I'll usually layer the voiceover of the parents doing toasts with the first dances, or not first dances, but with the father-daughter, mother-son dances. You can see the lighting in the shot. I almost always light receptions this way. It's actually my hair light that I'm using right now that you can see kind of on my shoulder and on this side of my head. It's this light. It's called the Lowell Pro something or other. My friend Eric Floberg turned me onto these with a wedding I was shooting with him, and I immediately went home and bought them because you can just see they look so good. They flare really beautiful. They flare beautifully. And they're just like this really warm, nice color light. They're physically warm. They're a halogen bulb. They're like a 250 watt halogen bulb, so they get really, really hot. But I'll typically just light these 45-degree angles opposite corners of a dance floor, so that I can either shoot backlit or I can shoot frontlit. They're hard light sources, but they look really beautiful when you know how to use them. So these are great lights. I'll link them down in the description if you're interested in checking them out. They're super affordable as far as continuous video lights go. I could buy like 74 of these things for the price of this one key light that I'm lighting myself with.
It's new each time because you come to know one another more.
This is worth mentioning too. I know I keep pausing and starting this video, and I'm sorry, but this is a commentary, so I guess what did I expect? If you look at this shot, for example, like this isn't an outrageously beautiful shot. Like, you know, the highlights in the outside and the background are blown out. It's just kind of the necessity given how dark it was indoors. You know, it's an indoor overhead lighting. It's not like anything particularly beautiful about this shot. You know, it's just kind of a busy scene. There's a lot going on here visually that I don't love as a filmmaker, but this is an incredibly heartfelt moment between the mother of the bride and the couple. And the thing you got to think about when you're solo shooting these weddings is, you know, 15, 20, 25 years from now, after, you know, the mother of the bride has passed away, they're going to be able to go back and have this experience of watching this film and having even just a snippet of some really incredible words and a really incredible moment that they shared together. And that goes so far beyond like creating beautiful visuals. Like that's so much bigger than just like making a film. And that's the kind of thing you got to keep in mind whenever you're shooting wedding films is this is something much, much bigger than just making a beautiful film. Like there's real emotions and big life implications all wrapped up into this thing. And there are moments that are going to happen during this day that we won't have had time to concoct the most gorgeous visual to accompany that moment. But that moment is no less special, and the bride and groom deserve to remember that as part of their wedding day story. And so we're going to include that in the film, despite it not being as visually spectacular as we hope for. I know I'm hounding that point and I've brought it up several times, but I really can't drive it home enough that wedding films are much, much bigger than beautiful visuals. You should include a consideration for beautiful visuals. After all, it is what we do. We are artists, and we do get hired because people see the beautiful things that we create. So there's an expectation that what we make will be beautiful, but if it comes at the expense of capturing the emotion and giving the bride and the groom the stories that they deserve, then what's the point? Like, what's it for? Like, what good are beautiful visuals if there's not a powerful story enabling them? So, monologue over. Let's move on.
Things together. So each time you say I love you, it's new.
Transition into the dancing. Again, this is kind of the climax of the film. We have high energy dancing. I like to shoot the reception dancing sort of almost like it's like a early 2000s MTV video. You know, I like the handheld, the jerkiness, like all that sort of stuff that makes it feel like it's a VHS, like that your dad is like, you know, has his big old camcorder and he's like shooting from, you know, back in the day. Like I like that sort of nostalgic, intimate kind of vibe for this dance stuff. And it works. The energy of the camera movement, I think, works with the energy of the moment itself. And again, just practically speaking, when you're solo shooting, handheld is going to be your best friend. Shooting handheld will be your best friend whenever you're solo shooting weddings, because you've got to be as mobile as possible, and just having a camera in your hand is inevitably the most mobile, mobile way to handle a camera. So, a lot of this, almost this whole day was shot handheld. I did have a camera on a gimbal that it's a camera that I just leave on a gimbal. I never take it off. But other than that, I really just use that camera for some pickup shots throughout the day, some B-roll stuff. But for the vast majority of the day, I have a camera in my hands. It's kind of why I shoot with bigger, either a legitimate cinema camera or, I have my EOS R built up like a cinema camera, is because I like the added weight and the added support that it brings shooting handheld. It makes shooting handheld a lot easier. It takes a lot of the sort of jitter out of the camera and makes it look better. So that's that. Just more dancing shots. I will tend to try and kind of bring in some dynamic in this portion in the ceremony, some rise and fall. They literally did no slow dances. Like after the first dance and the mother-son, father-daughter dances, it was all up. Like the DJ just kept the level up high, which is totally fine. I'm totally down with that. But, the reality was there was no dynamic to the night. It was just all up, people partying, having a good time. So I just kept the energy of the film up. If there was some kind of rise and fall that happened with the dances, if the DJ would have brought it down and, done a slow dance or two, and I got some more footage of the bride and groom slow dancing together, and then brought it back up into more people dancing and just added a little bit more dynamic, but it didn't happen. And they just stayed up and they danced their hearts out and had a blast. So that's what this portion of the film is just them dancing, having a good time, because that's the reality of it. That's what happened. And then transitioning into the end scene, back to the fireworks. It's pretty epic. Hit my microphone again. It's pretty epic. The ending of the track, the ending of the song was abrupt. So I wanted to match that abruptness with the cut, with the change in the film. So I feel like it did that. It went straight from this high energy dancing, high energy movement, to where it falls off kind of right now. So that's, I would have loved to be able to be moving around during the fireworks and getting some different angles, some different shots, some of the front, with their faces being lit up by the fireworks. But it just, again, you shoot very utilitarian whenever you're shooting by yourself. You kind of have to. That's really all you can do. And then if you find moments to really create beautiful things, you do. Which the production value of a fireworks show like this is massive. Like, it looks incredible despite it being one shot. There's no cuts, there's no camera movement, there's nothing, yada yada yada, all that fanciness. It still looks incredible. Like, you can still make things look incredible despite being a one-man run and gun situation in the day. So that's it, guys. That's sort of like a little breakdown, a little walkthrough of the last wedding film that I did. I hope you guys get some value out of that. I hope you get some takeaways. If you guys are out there solo shooting weddings, props to you. I've done it. Obviously, it's not easy, but that's it. I hope you guys, like I said, got some value out of that. If you like this stuff, be sure to subscribe. I definitely have some more videos coming, some exciting stuff planned. My next video, I'm going to be breaking down my C300 Mark III cinema camera rig. If you guys are interested in that, it'll be similar to the EOS R video rig breakdown that I did. Again, I'll link it, or it was linked earlier. I'll link it again if I can. I don't even know. Can you do that? Can you link the same video twice in an iCard? I don't know. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. I really appreciate you guys. We'll see you in the next one. Much love. Peace.